Prince Andrew's shocking Newsnight interview will reportedly be used in the civil lawsuit against him filed by Virginia Giuffre, her lawyer has revealed. Sigrid Macaulay, an attorney for Roberts, said she and her team have looked over the infamous 2019 interview Prince Andrew, 61, gave to Emily Maitlis for inconsistencies. The managing partner at U.S. firm Boies Schiller Flexner claimed the interview was very helpful and said the Duchess of York and Andrew's daughters may be subpoenaed to question his alibi, the Daily Telegraph reported. The Duke of York was last month served with court papers by Roberts, who claims Andrew sexually abused her in 2001 when she was 17. Prince Andrew, who has always strongly denied the allegations, was expected to file court documents arguing the case should be thrown out before last night's deadline. Mrs. Macaulay said she plans to use his Newsnight interview as a basis for the sexual assault case and described his decision to appear on television as shocking. She added, "I don't know who would have advised him to do that. It was a very wrong move on his part to expose himself in that way." Mrs. Macaulay also confirmed that her team would also be seeking to question his ex-wife Sarah Ferguson and his daughters Beatrice and Eugenie about his alibi given in the Newsnight interview. In the interview, Andrew denied claims that he slept with Ms. Giuffre on 3 separate occasions and said, "I can absolutely categorically tell you it never happened. I have no recollection of ever meeting this lady, none whatsoever." The Duke also said he has no memory of a well-known photograph of him with his arm around Roberts's waist and has questioned whether it was his own hand in the image. Asked about the claims made by Roberts, Andrew claimed he could not have had sex with Jeffrey Epstein's alleged sex slave in 2001 because he was out with his daughter at Pizza Express in Woking. He also said a medical condition after being shot at during the Falklands War left him unable to sweat because Miss Roberts, who was 17 at the time, claimed that they danced together and he had been sweating profusely. The fallout from the interview saw the royal criticized for showing a lack of empathy towards Epstein's victims and a lack of remorse over his friendship with disgraced financier. It was shortly after the interview aired that the Queen was effectively forced to sack Andrew from his senior royal duties to avoid causing more public backlash. Last month, Roberts served Andrew with court papers claiming that he sexually abused her in 2001 when she was 17. Roberts alleges she was told by notorious financier and pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to have sex with Andrew at Epstein's mansion in New York and other locations. The prince has always denied the allegations. The prince's California-based lawyer Andrew Brettler was expected to file a motion to dismiss the lawsuit, according to a letter filed earlier this week. The deadline for Andrew to respond to the claims in her lawsuit passed yesterday. During a hearing of the case last month, Brettler said the lawsuit was baseless, non-viable and potentially unlawful. This week, a judge backed Brettler's request for a 2009 settlement agreement between Epstein and Roberts to remain secret. New York U.S. District Judge Louis A. Kaplan made the ruling on Wednesday in a brief order after Brettler asked that the document remain sealed as the legal team fight to get Roberts's lawsuit thrown out. In her lawsuit, Roberts claimed she was trafficked to London as a 17-year-old by Epstein and forced to have sex with the prince at Ghislaine Maxwell's house. She also alleged that Andrew knew she was a victim of sex trafficking by Epstein, and also knew she was a minor under U.S. law. Brettler said neither the prince nor Roberts contend that the release agreement must remain sealed, but they requested that it stay secret because it is subject to a protective order from another judge presiding over a federal civil action in New York. The settlement agreement was reached between Giuffre and Jeffrey Epstein, who was found dead at age 66 in his cell in 2019 while awaiting a sex trafficking trial at a New York federal jail. His death was ruled a suicide. Bretler said the agreement releases Prince Andrew and others from any purported liability arising from the claims Ms. Giuffre asserted against Prince Andrew here, and officially made the request to keep the agreement sealed to the Manhattan Federal Court on Wednesday. But Roberts' attorneys argue that the Andrews' attempt to rely on the previous settlement agreement with Epstein to get the case dismissed will fail. Ms. Roberts' lawyers have indicated they will fight the move by the prince's team, saying there is no evidence he was ever intended to be covered by the previous legal agreement. There is no evidence from any of the parties to the release, or Prince Andrew, that the release was ever intended to include Prince Andrew, and we believe the evidence will be that it wasn't, wrote Roberts' lawyer, David Boies, in a court filing. It comes after Roberts' lawyers said last month the prince had officially been served with the lawsuit, but his legal team disputed this. The issue of whether or not Andrew had been notified about the case, known as service of proceedings, was contested during the first pre-trial hearing of the civil case last month in New York. But after it was confirmed the papers were served on the 21st of September, Andrew has until today to provide a response. Ms. Giuffre has accused Andrew of abusing her at Epstein's Manhattan mansion as well as his private Caribbean island, and at the London home of his girlfriend Ghislaine Maxwell, who is currently in a New York jail awaiting sex abuse and grooming charges. Roberts is suing the price for the alleged sexual abuse and is seeking unspecified damages. British police announced earlier this month that they have dropped their probe into the prince after conducting a review prompted by Giuffre's claims. The Metropolitan Police had previously examined the allegations made by Giuffre against Andrew but did not open a full investigation, saying the case was a matter for the U.S. authorities. The police also said no action would result from allegations that Epstein's alleged accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, trafficked, groomed and abused women and girls in the UK. Maxwell, a British socialite and Epstein's one-time girlfriend, goes to trial in November in New York on sex trafficking charges. She has pleaded not guilty. A hearing in the Prince Andrew lawsuit is scheduled for next week. Judge Kaplan has ruled, with the agreement of both parties, that all disclosures and depositions should be completed before July next year. Judge Kaplan intends to draw a line under any amendments to the New York proceedings by December 15. All disclosures relating to expert witnesses should be made by June 13, with the disclosure process complete a month later.